Thank you for joining me here for another episode, and in today's episode it's going to be interesting. Campfire cooking, relaxing, tarp camping with crackling sounds. In today's episode I do a tarp camp in front of a lake. I do a little bit of cooking and I've got a new fire set up. So you may remember in my previous episode I had a slightly different camping fire situation. Today I want to be cooking a bit of light lunch, a bap, which is basically a bread with the beans and cheese set up over a campfire. So it's going to be an interesting option. I'm going to do a little bit of woodwork as well, just to create a little bubble to put my new tarp in. So the tarp I've had since the start. So thanks for being here with me today. You're joining me on another episode as always. You will recall I was lakeside in my last episode and I had a little setup there with my teepee tent and fire. This time we got a little bit lucky. As I was walking through, I noticed coal, and the coal is what I used to help create my fire. So I feel like this will be a nice relaxing setup today. I quickly set up my tarp and I start hunting for dry twigs. A good way to tell if the twigs are dry is by snapping them. If they snap and make a loud snapping noise, then they are dry and ready to use. Always have a look at your surroundings, the type of trees that are around you, and admire the beauty of nature. So you'll notice here I've got my little table set up, and that table works comfortably for a little tiny camping episode as it is today. And I've also got my little camping new fire pit stove. This all flat packs into a small setup, and I use the woods I collected earlier, the dry wood, and we'll see how well this wood will burn. It's always an interesting idea and concept going camping, especially when you're going to be creating a fire. I find if it's off the ground and it's in its own container, it is a little bit more safe than having a fire on a floor. Just check with your local area for what the criteria is for you. So you'll notice I've got a nice little kitchen setup here. I've got a few coal which I found on the floor, which we're going to see if it works. And this fire slowly gets going, and it's always interesting how this can go. You will notice the fire gets going really quickly as it is a windy day today, and we're near a lake just under the tree here, and it's a nice relaxing location. My main priority today is going to be to see if I can get a little bit more fancy with my cook setup. You notice so far I've been keeping it very light. If you've been catching up on my previous few episodes, this is going to be a number 6 in my camping journey. And this, especially early on, I was getting my spices ready, creating options for drinks. That's some quite a lot of sugar there actually. I just looking back at this reminds me of how much sugar I used to take. I've cut down now. I go down to 1 teaspoon, and by the looks of what I put in there, that was close to about 4. A tad bit of milk, and you'll notice I'm using the wider pan for cooking this time. So this is like a mess tin that you can cook in. I did find on the fire it creates hot spots, and it wasn't the best place to cook with this, but we're going to make do with what we've got here. A nice fresh dough, sourdough bread which we used as the bun, and some cheese. Got it a little bit crispy on the fire and put the beans inside. And it was very nice. It's just the right amount of balance of carbohydrates, protein, and a bit of dairy because of the cheese. So it's a basic meal, but it means you can pack less and take less with you. I'm going to be practicing over my seasons of the episode to find what works best and what would be a good option for camping. And as we go through this journey together, it'll be interesting to have you along with me. And my tarp is kind of giving me a little bit of shelter, and we're in the shade here. I've got a little sponge that I use to just clean the mess tin off with a bit of water and leave that on the fire to warm up. And packing away the kitchen utensils in a little portable lunch box keeps you organized. And you notice I collected some of these coals because they did work quite well for the fire, so I was pleased to have those as an option. Sometimes it's good to just sit and relax, and slowly we're building up to our episode here where we're basically looking at creating little projects using wood that we find in the outdoors. Got a little Swiss Army knife here, and I wanted to make something I saw online which will be very handy. And you'll see as I do this, it's going to be an interesting option because you can actually tie up pieces of gear using a bubble which is made out of wood. And it reminds me of this location each time I use this because I made it while I was camping. And it's always nice to see these types of little projects come to life when you've got a bit of time and you can actually use it during your camping journey. And you'll notice I've got a little saw on this knife as well as the knife itself, and my fire's continuing to go ahead there just in the background. It's nice and roaring and creating a little bit of heat and getting rid of any bugs and mosquitoes that would be around. So there's nothing too fancy here. All I was simply doing was getting a piece of wood for the correct dimensions, about 3 inches long. I take off the bark off the wood and then use the wood itself as a holding tool, and then use my little oar to make a tiny hole through the middle so we can feed a bit of paracord through that. That will allow us to use this as a clip to keep gear together, especially because we've got our tarp set up. I want to be able to pack that down light, so when I fold it up I could use this to actually just spend a bit of time to make sure it's as compressed as it can be, and it's a natural way of doing this. So again, it's just enjoyable spending a bit of time in nature. And we've come to this location a few times now if you followed the previous episodes, and I'm going to be including this in a playlist, so if you do want to catch up with any of these, it's always good to see how this journey is going. This is a condensed version of my full episode, so I'm trying to make smaller ones here so we can at least see what's going on and how things are progressing. So you'll see it's a simple tying of a knot with a paracord, and that allows this to be used as a little bit of a cinching tool, and it can work in various options. You can see I'll test it on my hand, and I was quite pleased with this small fire pit situation as well, because it did do quite a good job in this scenario. So it's pleasing to see that. So we're going to start putting the camp away this time. So we've had a nice experience here today. Hopefully this has given you an idea of what's potentially possible, and if you've not been able to get out much, I'm pleased to have you here on this journey with me. So we were out together, so you joined me on this journey. And in my next episode I'll be getting a little bit more fancy with my gear setup, so make sure to check out the playlist where you can see more, and the next episode on screen now.